The woman banging on my brand-new front door was wearing a name tag that said President, Willowcrest HOA, and an expression that told me she thought she personally invented property lines. I opened the door halfway. I was still holding a screwdriver in one hand and half-assembled furniture pieces in the other. On my porch stood Beverly Trent, crisp polo shirt, clipboard, and a 3-page packet she shoved at my chest. Per Section 3.1 of the Willowcrest Covenants, she snapped, you are in violation and must vacate this home immediately. I blinked. I moved in yesterday. Yes, she said. Illegally. I glanced past her at the end of my driveway. The freshly installed street sign clearly read Cedar Ridge Lane, unincorporated county. Behind Beverly, the manicured utopia of Willowcrest ended abruptly at a brick monument and a tasteful thank you for visiting our community sign. My house was on the other side. You know this is not part of your HOA, right? I said. That is literally the line. Beverly's nostrils flared. When you left Willowcrest, you signed a non-compete with our aesthetic. This lot is immediately adjacent. You are contaminating our view. The board has voted. You need to leave. I stared at her for a beat. Then I laughed. That is not how anything works. Beverly leaned in, eyes cold. We will see what the county thinks when we explain your unsafe, unpermitted construction. I set the screwdriver down, pulled my phone from my pocket, and scrolled to a contact labeled Jules, County Building Inspector, also known as Sanity. Funny you mention the county, I said. You are about to meet my new friend. Before all this, I had been the perfect HOA resident. Quiet, early 30s, software engineer, stable income, kept my yard tidy, never parked on the street. The sort of guy an HOA newsletter would feature as model neighbor if I ever agreed to answer their survey about favorite mulch. I bought my first house in Willowcrest Meadows, a master-planned community outside Birch Ridge with rules about everything from mailbox height to approved patio furniture colors. For 3 years, it was fine. I worked, I grilled, I minded my business. And then I met Beverly Trent, Willowcrest HOA president. Our first interaction was when she knocked on my door holding a printed photo of my driveway. You cannot have a red tool chest visible from the street, she had informed me. It is industrial. I had moved it into the garage. Then came a warning about my non-standard welcome mat. It has words on it, Marcus. An email about my Halloween pumpkins. 3 is the max. You have 5. A formal notice because my recycling bin lid did not close all the way one windy trash day. The last straw came when Beverly left a friendly reminder taped directly onto my truck windshield in the rain because I had parked it too close to my own mailbox. I started reading my closing documents. Turned out the lot I was on was not the only option. Just outside the Willowcrest subdivision, on the other side of that brick "Thank you for visiting" sign, a strip of land had never been annexed into the HOA, legal no man's land. The county plat map showed it clearly, a tiny island of freedom. 2 months later, after a late-night browsing session and a very determined realtor, I sold my Willowcrest home and bought a brand-new build on that unincorporated strip. Same view. Same school district. 0 HOA. When the moving truck rolled past the Willowcrest monument and kept going instead of turning in, Beverly had been out walking her dog. She watched my couch and TV sail by with the expression of a monarch watching a favorite subject defect to a border town. She recovered quickly. By the time I had my bed assembled, she had already decided if she could not keep me inside the HOA, she would just extend the HOA to me. It started with petty theatrics. On day 2, I found a Willowcrest welcome packet on my porch, complete with covenants booklet, due schedule, and a handwritten note. As an adjacent property, you are expected to maintain Willowcrest standards. President Trent. I tossed it in the recycling. The next day, there was a second envelope. Notice of non-compliance. Violation, unauthorized exterior paint color. Please submit color swatch for approval or repaint your front door willow white within 14 days. I looked at my door. It was a perfectly neutral slate gray. I mailed the notice back, this time with a sticky note. Not in your HOA. Please stop littering on my porch. This did not have the de-escalating effect I had hoped for. Within a week, Beverly started walking her dog exactly along the property line twice a day, pausing to glare at my lawn. She was seen photographing my backyard fence from the community walking trail. A Willow Crest newsletter went out with a paragraph about nearby properties that refused to uphold community values, accompanied by a zoomed-in shot of my still unfinished deck. Then came the calls. First, a mysterious anonymous complaint to the county about unsafe construction at my address. I got a friendly visit from Jules Hinshaw, county building inspector, mid-afternoon. Got a report about unpermitted structural work, Jules said, scanning a tablet. Mind if I take a look? I showed her the permits pinned in a plastic sleeve in my garage. She looked them over, snorted, and rolled her eyes. Yeah, she said. Thought so. Some HOAs think just outside the neighborhood means still ours. We walked the property. Everything was textbook. Jules signed off and left with a wave. 2 days later, Animal Control showed up. Sir, we got a call about a vicious, constantly barking dog at this address. I looked at my golden retriever Waffles, who was asleep on his back with a chew toy resting on his face like a sleep mask. Really? I said. The officer watched Waffles snore. Yeah, he sighed. We are done here. Over the next month, I collected a bingo card of weaponized concern. A zoning complaint, too many vehicles stored on property. I had 2. A noise complaint, loud mechanical sounds at night. I ran my dishwasher at 9 p.m. A junk complaint about debris in my yard. It was lumber for a permitted shed. Each time, city or county staff came out, saw the reality, and closed the case. Each time, Beverly watched from the Willow Crest side of the line, arms folded, lips tight. The breaking point came when I put up a perfectly legal, modest 6-foot privacy fence along the backside of my yard. I came out one morning to find Beverly standing at the property line, staring at it like it was a crime scene. That fence is not on our approved list, she called out. Good news, I said. I am not on your approved list either. Her eyes narrowed. You are destroying the uniform character of this neighborhood. I do not live in your neighborhood, I reminded her. We went over this. She jabbed a finger at my house. As far as I am concerned, you do. And I will not have this loophole residency next to Willow Crest. 3 days later, the fake notice to vacate appeared on my door. And things stopped being petty. They started being illegal. The notice to vacate looked official at first glance. Big block letters. The Willow Crest logo at the top. Lots of legal-sounding phrases. You are hereby ordered to vacate the premises within 72 hours. Unsafe occupancy. Failure to comply may result in law enforcement involvement. At the bottom, Beverly had signed it with a flourish and added the words by order of the board and in cooperation with county code enforcement. I took a photo of it, then another of the street sign at the end of my driveway that did not say Willow Crest anywhere on it. Then I forwarded both to Jules, the building inspector, with the caption, "Hey, you guys start doing handwritten evictions now, or is Willow Crest pretending to be the county?" Jules called me in under a minute. "Please tell me this is a joke," she said. "I wish," I replied. A beat of silence. "Okay," Jules said, voice sharpening. "First of all, no one but a court can issue an eviction notice. Second, she just wrote my department into it like we co-signed her power trip. That is a big no." "That is what I thought," I said. "So what now?" "Now," Jules said, "we treat it like what it is, impersonation of a public process. I am looping in my supervisor and code enforcement. Do not throw that paper away. And do not engage with her if you can avoid it." I hung up, propped the notice on my counter, and went back to assembling shelves. I did not have to wait long. That afternoon, a patrol car rolled slowly past my driveway, then turned around and pulled in. The officer stepped out, hand resting casually on his belt. "Afternoon. You Marcus?" "Yeah," I said, suddenly very aware of Beverly watching from the HOA side of the line, phone out and recording. "We got a call about an illegal occupancy and a disputed eviction notice," the officer said. "Mind if I take a look at whatever paperwork you have been given?" I handed over the faux legal packet. The officer read the header. His eyebrows climbed. "This is HOA letterhead. He flipped pages. And this part, in cooperation with county code enforcement, that is not how any of this works. That is what the county said too, I replied. Behind the patrol car, a second vehicle pulled up, a white county SUV with code enforcement printed on the side. Jules stepped out, joined by a man in a county windbreaker who looked like he had seen every kind of nonsense a homeowners association could cook up. "Hey, Marcus," she said, then nodded to the officer. "Afternoon. Dyer. Got your call." She took one look at the notice in Officer Dyer's hand and let out a low whistle. "Oh, Beverly," she murmured. "You really did it this time." The man in the windbreaker extended his hand. "I am Tom. County Attorney's Office. We would like to have a chat with whoever signed this." I jerked my chin toward Willow Crest, where Beverly had migrated closer, hovering at the property line. "Ask and you shall receive," I said. The trio, Officer Dyer, Jules, and Tom, walked over to the invisible line where Willow Crest ended and the real world began. Beverly stepped forward like she was greeting guests at a fundraiser. "Officers, I am so glad you came. We have a very serious issue with a non-compliant resident endangering our community." Tom held up the papers. "You wrote and delivered this?" "Of course," she said. "As HOA president, I am obligated to enforce occupancy standards in and around Willow Crest. His house affects our property values." "In and around," Jules repeated under her breath. Tom's tone stayed polite, but his eyes went cold. "Just to be clear, you understand that this property is not part of Willow Crest. It is unincorporated county land." Beverly waved a dismissive hand. "Adjacent lots are de facto part of the neighborhood. The sign is merely ceremonial." Jules actually choked. Tom continued. "And you understand that only a court can issue an eviction, and only a sworn officer or authorized agent can serve one." Beverly's smile tightened. "We have broad enforcement powers. It says so in our covenants." "No," Tom said. "You have broad enforcement powers over your members. On land subject to your covenants. That does not include Mr. Hale or his property." She crossed her arms. "Well, we will see what the board's attorney says." Tom's expression did not change. "Funny you mention attorneys. Because I am the county's. And what I see is a document on your HOA letterhead that falsely claims cooperation with county code enforcement, orders someone to vacate their home, and implies law enforcement backing where there is none." Officer Dyer stepped in. "Which is a serious problem, ma'am. That is misrepresenting governmental authority. And calling 911 to report a fake eviction you invented? That is misuse of emergency services." Beverly's composure started to slip. "I was simply doing my duty. That house is an eyesore. Look at that fence. It does not match." Jules, who had been silently seething, finally spoke. "Your duty does not include slapping my department's name on your tantrum," she said. "We deal with actual safety issues, not your aesthetic feelings." Tom flipped a page on his clipboard. "We have also pulled the last few weeks of complaint logs. You have made let's see 9 calls or anonymous reports about this address alone. All unfounded." "They were not unfounded," Beverly snapped. "That dog barked at me. Once, I called from my porch. When you stepped onto my flower bed to take pictures of my deck." Officer Dyer turned. "She stepped on your property?" "Twice," I said. "I have got it on my security cameras." Dyer looked back at Beverly. "Okay. So now we are adding trespass to the mix." Beverly's voice went high. "This is harassment. You are all ganging up on a volunteer. I give my time to keep this community beautiful." Tom's tone stayed flat. "You used your volunteer position to impersonate county authority and attempt to push someone out of a legally occupied home. That is not community service. That is abuse of authority." He closed his folder with a quiet finality. "Here is what is going to happen," he said. "You are going to cease all contact with Mr. Hale. No notices. No letters. No adjacent anything. You will stop using county or law enforcement language on HOA documents immediately. And you will be receiving a formal letter from my office regarding your creative interpretation of your powers. Officer Dyer added, "And if we get one more bogus emergency call about this address, I will personally pursue charges for false reporting." Are we clear? For the first time since I had known her, Beverly did not have a comeback. She just stared, mouth opening and closing. Behind her, 2 Willow Crest residents who had wandered over to watch suddenly became very interested in the clouds. One of them was already texting furiously. I watched the balance shift, the way you watch a seesaw when the heavier kid finally sits on the other end. Beverly, queen of the cul-de-sac, had just found out where her kingdom ended. Right at that brick sign. The real fun began at the next Willow Crest HOA meeting. I did not attend. I did not live there. But 3 different neighbors sent me videos. The meeting opened with Beverly trying to spin. "There has been a misunderstanding with the county," she said, voice tight. "They overreacted to a routine compliance notice delivered to the adjacent property." Tom had apparently seen the agenda, because halfway through her speech, he walked into the clubhouse, county badge on his belt, and took a seat in the front row. The room went dead quiet. Beverly's smile froze. "Mr. Tom Garcia," he said. "County Attorney. Since my office is on your agenda under legal update, I thought I would save everyone some time." He stood, pulled a thin folder from his bag, and laid out, in simple language, what Beverly had done. Issued a fake eviction notice. Misrepresented county and law enforcement involvement. Filed multiple unfounded complaints and emergency calls. Trespassed on Marcus's property to inspect his fence. He did not embellish. He did not need to. "We are not pressing criminal charges at this time," he said. "But we have issued a formal warning. Any further impersonation of county authority or harassment of residents on adjacent properties will be treated as intentional misconduct." Murmurs rippled through the room. A man raised his hand. "Are you saying our HOA president could have gotten us sued?" Tom nodded. "Yes." If Mr. Hale had chosen to pursue civil action, both the association and individual board members who approved her actions could have been named. "The county will not indemnify you for something you were repeatedly warned about." Someone in the back said, "You what?" loud enough to echo. Another hand shot up. "Did the board vote on this eviction notice thing?" Silence. All eyes turned to Beverly. She swallowed. "The board empowered me to act on their behalf." A board member named Larry cleared his throat, betraying instincts for self-preservation. "We empowered you to send a letter, Bev. Not whatever that was." Tom raised an eyebrow. "So the board did not formally vote to evict a non-member from a house you do not govern?" Larry shook his head too fast. "Absolutely not. Phones were out now. People were recording openly. A woman near the front stood and said, 'My husband is on that board. Why are we just hearing about this now? You have been using our dues to fight your personal war?' Beverly snapped, 'It is not personal. He is undermining our property values. That fence. His fence is nicer than half of ours.' Someone shouted. Another voice, 'He left because you harassed him over pumpkins, Bev.' It snowballed. Within 10 minutes, the meeting turned into a roast. Someone demanded to see Beverly's emails regarding me. Another asked how much HOA money had been spent on legal consultations that apparently never actually involved real lawyers. A third pointed out that 9 bogus complaints had put them on the county's radar in the worst way. Finally, a homeowner in a faded polo, clearly over it, stepped to the mic. "I move that we remove Beverly Trent as HOA president effective immediately," he said. "For abuse of authority, endangering the association financially, and making us all look like idiots." The room erupted in second, from at least 5 directions. They took a vote. It was not close. On the video, you could see Beverly's face as she realized she was actually losing power. Not metaphorically. Literally. Her gavel, engraved with her name, was taken and handed to Larry, who looked like he had accidentally become king in the middle of a coup. Tom slid a paper across the table toward the shell-shocked board. "This is a recommended policy," he said. "It clarifies that Willow Crest has no authority over adjacent properties, requires board approval before any contact with non-members, and prohibits use of county language or logos on your documents. Sign it, and we can try to consider this contained." They signed. Beverly did not. She just stood there, eyes blazing, as the tiny artificial universe she had controlled shrank back to its actual, boring legal size. Afterward, as people filed out, the same faded polo guy was heard saying, all this because she could not stand that the man moved one house outside the gates. Unreal. The video ended with someone muttering, "I am calling a realtor. I want that Freedom Street." After her removal as president, the new board voted to bar her from holding any board position for 10 years and required all officers to complete an online course on fiduciary duty and abuse of authority. The county's formal warning went into her file. Any future stunt involving fake government paperwork would skip the warning phase. Beverly stood frozen at the podium, her face turning red as the reality sank in. 10 years, she whispered, staring at the board members who had just voted against her. "You cannot do this to me." But they already had. The gavel she had used for years to control every petty detail of the neighborhood was now in someone else's hands. Her reign was over, ended not by a close vote or political maneuvering, but by her own overreach and desperation to control something that was never hers.